Testing. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 3. Betty Blue blows big black bubbles. Betty bought a bit of butter, but the bit of butter Betty bought was bitter, so Betty bought a better bit of butter, and the batter was better. Many mincing maidens meandered moodily moorwards. A pale pink proud peacock pompously pruned its pretty plumage. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Oops.
Hello.
Hey, good evening.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Let me call Cody first.
Did you change the dimensions of the...
I did. I'm streaming at a
widgets?
higher resolution.
Oh, it looks sharp.
Yeah, just 720p. We did it for a while, but then we were having some problems, and so I cut it back. But things have been pretty stable for a while, so I thought I'd kick it back up. And I have more bandwidth than I used to.
Oh, did you get a bump up?
Yeah, I bumped up a while ago, got a new router and all that stuff, but
Cool.
I hadn't actually gone back and changed things around. Hi, this is Jonathan.
Hey.
Jonathan, how you doing?
Doing fine.
Hey, Cody.
Can
This
you
is
hear
Hal.
me? Is the microphone okay?
It sounds like crap, actually.
Okay, that's what I was afraid of. Hold on, let me switch to a different one.
That's high resolution. Okay, can I view this as... Yeah, I can view that as full screen. Sure, why not? I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Is that from Cody's channel?
Yeah, it may be from Vaughn, who just joined. I'm not sure. Do one of you?
Hello, Vaughn.
Do either of you guys have the video open?
I guess that's a no.
I'm firing up the video now. Sorry, guys. I'm
Cool.
sitting in a lovely, lovely hotel room.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, right?
How's it going, Vaughn? This is Hal.
I'm going great, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Long time no chat.
Yeah, right?
What country are you in?
I am in lovely, balmy, sunny Minneapolis, Minnesota. Why is this not showing my video?
You're not going to see video from me because I'm streaming video to YouTube.
Okay.
So that would be normal.
But you guys can go to the if you go to live.powerscripting.net, then you can see what the listeners and viewers will see. That is optional.
Oh, yeah.
Testing.
Is the microphone better from my side?
Yes, it is better.
Speak
Great.
black bubbles. Betty bought a bit of butter, but the bit of butter, Betty Bob was
Yeah,
bitter.
you're going to want to mute the. You're going to want to mute the video audio.
The pale
Yeah,
pink
mute
crown
the
peak
audio of the
humps
video.
pruned its pretty plumage.
Otherwise,
Sally
you
sells
get
shells by the
it back
seashore.
again. And then we're going to be
Could a woodchuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
we're going to have the Matrix here in a minute.
So I'm sharing my video. Should that show up on that YouTube webcast or no?
It should. It looks like it's still. You may need to stop it and restart it because it looks like it's just loading and hanging.
Oh, I see him. Hair.
You do? How is that possible?
It stopped. It was there for a moment and then it stopped.
Okay, now I see Cody.
I see Cody.
I see Vaughn.
You know what that... I think that was... that might have been his avatar.
Oh, okay.
Because it looks surprisingly, Vaughn, like your NetApp office, actually.
Oh, that might have been, actually. That's funny.
Oh, it's back.
He must have unmuted the video.
Is somebody dialing a modem? Okay. Cody, Vaughn, hit the mute button on the
It's Vaughn.
the YouTube.
He's trying to figure out how to mute the video, the audio on the video.
It's okay. Go through this every time, guys. No big deal. Roll with it. Welcome everybody in the chat. Do this. Okay, who's got the, is that Vaughn? Hey, Vaughn.
I don't think Vaughn's paying any attention to us. He's trying to get his video working. Oh, there he is. One problem at a time. There you go. Can you mute the audio on the video?
Hey. Get in there. Get on. There it goes.
Yay.
Hey.
I had to mute that thing. Jesus Christ.
Thank you for muting it. We were trying to tell you to mute it. But I doubt you could hear us.
That's okay. Okay. Is everybody with us now?
I think so.
Okay. Cody, where are you? Where are you at?
I'm in San Jose.
Cool. And Vaughn, you are in sunny, balmy Minneapolis, Minnesota.
That's right. I know you guys want to be here.
Do you still have snow on the ground?
Well, I don't live here. I'm visiting, but yes, there's snow on the ground.
Wow.
You frame that like ownership. Do you still have snow?
It's all your fault, Juan.
Shit on the ground.
Dice one. Yeah, last who called for the snow? I thought we'd all agreed we were done with the snow, but no, Vaughn had to have snow. It is like fully spring here in Georgia. We're like ready to go. But I guess Cody, you kind of really you just got the one season,
Yeah, they
right?
don't really have seasons here. It's just hot or maybe cooler sometimes.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty hot today.
Dude, you got to move like 20 miles north, like where I'm at, man. It's not as hot as where you're at.
Drops down to what the high 50s there.
I'm telling you, man.
Are you
I'm originally
base
from
of the Bay Area
Pennsylvania, so I know. And I lived in Massachusetts for a while too. So.
Straight up from Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll get started in just a minute. I figured that we would, since we've got Vaughn, I'll let you kind of do the full meal deal, the big story, and then we'll kind of delve into what Cody does for a living and go back and forth. The podcast is, like the hook, the reason for the podcast is PowerShell. So that was kind of why we wanted to have you guys on in general. But I love talking about infrastructure anyway and storage and all that. So I'm happy to delve into however far it is that we feel that we want to go in that direction. So no worries there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that construct a little bit. So
I'm not gonna plan it. I'm not a planner.
No. I'm just throwing this out here, which is I'm
Okay.
not versed. I'm not versed in our PowerShell scripting. I'm kind of jumping in here. So if you want to, have me cover the high level stuff, I'm going to let Cody show off all the brains, and then make sure we just give some shout outs to Rob Barker and some of his work. So we make sure we get some people who look at some of the content he's put online, and then I'll just be quiet and nod.
Totally.
I'll make faces like this.
I appreciate it. Awesome. Okay, cool. Jonathan, we ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready.
Rolling, all that.
We
Sweet. Alrighty. Thank you, those of us in the chat room who are joining us. There's a couple. Man, we still gotta work on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's okay. There will be plenty of who download the show after the fact. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Vaughn, Cody, got my things there. Oh, I forgot to make show notes. Let me do that really super quickly. Hold on a second. And what number are we, Jonathan?
This is 298.
Wow,
Number
sweet.
one. Sorry.
Yeah, you guys are number one for Pure, but not of the podcast. Okay, half a second, and I will have this ready. 298. Okay, hitting the share button. Okay, Jonathan, I have shared the notes with you.
Thank you.
Alrighty then. Where's my... I lost my window. Okay, there's my window. All right, cool. Tonight on the PowerScripting podcast, we are pleased to have with us Vaughn Stewart and Cody Hosterman from Pure Storage. Hey, guys.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having us.
Hey, Hal. Thanks for having us.
Yep, our pleasure. So, first, I thought that we might get a little bit of background from both of you. Vaughn, you want to go first? Kind of tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do there?
Sure. So I'm Vaughn Stewart. I'm the Chief Evangelist for Pure Storage. Loving helping customers adopt flash technology. My role has a focus on communicating externally to a number of audiences. What we do, try to make some of the complex elements of storage and the hidden intricacies of flash a little bit easier for those to understand. Prior to joining Pure Storage, I spent 13 years at NetApp, and so if you played around with NetApp in any of your virtual infrastructure or cloud deployments, you probably touched on some of my work.
Awesome. So were you a much of a talker at when with NetApp? What were over those 13 years? You probably did a bunch of different things.
Well, I started in the field, post-sales installation, pre-sales, consulting. I had ran the technical aspect of the alliance with VMware for a while, and then I joined and bounced between engineering and marketing teams for the last 7 years. I was always a little too marketing-ish for the engineering teams and a little too geeky for the marketing teams.
That's probably a pretty good in-between place to be. I think I can definitely appreciate that. There's a lot of in order to guide the product, you have to know the product, and in order to if somebody that's writing copy, for example, they may not have to understand the full intricacy of the product. So, but there always has to be somebody to talk between those groups.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think there's a significant percentage of the customer base, or the technical audience, if you will, that wants to understand more about how the technologies work, but doesn't have hours to sit through the depths, or maybe even the knowledge base of, let's say, the engineering expertise to understand how your product works. So to be able to bubble that back with some accuracy so that it can be consumed by larger masses, I think is a valuable skill, and it's something, frankly, that I enjoy.
Awesome. Yeah, and getting up on stage and taking the message to people at different levels, right? You might be hitting a technical audience one day and keynoting for CIOs the next day, and just kind of being able to pivot like that, I'm sure is something you do a lot.
Well, it forces you to stress your skill set. I'll share with you that much. I'm much more comfortable in a technical infrastructure conversation than I am, say, supporting an investor analyst conference. But it's all good, right? We've got to develop our skill sets.
Yep, totally. So, Cody, welcome to the show as well. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Thanks. Yeah, so I've been at Pure Storage here for about a year, but prior to being at Pure, I was at EMC for just under 7 years. And at EMC, I focused on Symmetrix VMAX and VMware integration. So working with anywhere VMAX touched VMware, whether it been best practices, documentation, other integration pieces. As I said, I moved to Pure about a year ago, and I'm doing a similar job, similar role here at Pure as a solutions architect, focusing on VMware. So whether that be things like Site Recovery Manager, Power CLI, Log Insights, anything, from the VMware side of things. So documentation, demos, blogging, that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I've done solution architecture work myself, so I like that part of basically having to take two things and combine them together, and then make something new. That's kind of like where people find value, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Just getting things to work together and finding new and fun ways to get them to work together is always a lot of fun. It can be interesting work, and I think hopefully it's useful.
Awesome.
Cody is too humble for his own good. He's a rock star within our reference architecture team, who creates a tremendous amount of value, and working with some of his peers like Rob Barker, who was unable to join us, really moves the needle forward for both Pure, our engineering teams, but also our customers.
And that's why Von's our chief evangelist. He can say things like that.
You can just make stuff up. It doesn't even have to mean anything. It just has to sound good, right?
Oh, Cody's got, like, right next to his computer, he's got, like, this light bright, and it's awesome. He can make, like, pirate ships. It's great.
All right, cool. Well, let's back up a little bit. We're going to get into the PowerShell in a little bit, but first I wanted to make sure that people understood what it is, this product in this company that you guys have and that you're offering. So, Vaughn, you want to kind of start us out? Tell us what Pure is about.
Sure. So Pure Storage is an industry leader in the realm of all-flash storage arrays. We first released our product to general availability in 2012 with the premise that you could have an all-flash storage array for the price of disk. And at that time, that was an oddity in the market, something that didn't seem viable, how someone could take flash, something that's 10 times as performant of disk, and also 10 times the price, and make it affordable for what we're paying for traditional storage. This is kind of the way that the performance storage market has moved now, and all-flash arrays are the norm. We are still driving innovation and leadership in the marketplace, delivering more than 2x the data reduction capabilities and thus the cost reduction of our platform over others. But flash was really a means to reinvent storage, if you will, and to make storage arrays that were consistent in their performance and revisit licensing and maintenance models, to really drive a foundation for a significantly simpler storage experience for customers from top to bottom. And if you're looking at flash storage and you think, I don't need the performance elements of flash, you're looking at it the wrong way. Every day we have to deal with more data, so if you can drive simplicity into your infrastructure, it's going to beget scale to your staff and your operations. And so as we're going to go into today's podcast, I think you're going to see some of our foundations from a scripting element, how simple this is, and this is just a reflection of one portion of the simplicity we're trying to bring into the storage market.
So can you answer for me this question? I wanted to understand, why is there a different category called all-flash storage arrays?
Sure. So,
is it marketing, or are there some technical differences that are distinct here that are important to understand?
Yeah. So there are architectural differences. If you stick a flash solid-state drive or an SSD into any disk-based system, could be your laptop, could be an enterprise storage array, you're going to increase the performance of that device or that system. I think all of us love the flash that's in our modern laptops and cell phones. Right, we don't need the performance. We love the lightweight, the longer battery life, right? The ability to not have the device get so hot while it's on your lap, etc.
How fast it boots.
Right, but using flash as a direct replacement for disk is the worst thing that you can do to a flash device, and that's why reliability ratings, based on different types of flash media, that say, whoa, after so many write cycles, you're going to wear this thing out. Putting flash into enterprise storage arrays, there's a reason why you see industry leaders move away from that trend and either decide to build their own or acquire startups that have these technologies in their portfolios, because by treating flash like memory, which it is, and optimizing how you manage writing data to these devices, you can significantly increase the performance they'll provide for you, but more importantly, exponentially extend their life cycle or their useful life. And so that's really the difference. You can buy any array with flash, it'll be faster, or you can buy one that's optimized for the performance and the longevity of the media. And as I kind of said earlier in the opening, buying a next generation or one of these startups that are focusing on all flash, you're also buying in some of this next generation storage architecture, if you will, ones that are designed around having significantly simpler operations, and that really has a business impact in terms of providing scalability to your team. And to be honest with you, who wants to babysit storage anymore? No one likes their storage array. No one.
So let's break that down a little bit. I mean, if you think about the features and the management requirements of a spinning media storage array versus flash, you're saying that the architecture is simpler. How is it simpler? What is being taken out in effect that we don't have to? That you're saying we don't have to worry about. Why is it substantially different?
Okay, so sure. So let me see if I can break it down and make it. I'm trying to make this very substantive for your audience. So in your storage arrays of today, you have a combination of spinning disk and flash media. There's a significant volume of spinning disk. That's where you're going to persist your data, or where you're going to store your data for long haul. Flash is going to be used as some form of read acceleration, some form of write acceleration, and there's going to be just a small amount of flash because flash is expensive. In this model, what you're doing is you're trying to cache data from the slow disk into the fast flash layer, and all of your access to that data that's in flash is very fast, sub-millisecond response times. Every time that you need data that's not in the flash, you have to go seek it from disk, and it's going to be very slow in its response times, tens of milliseconds. That access makes data on traditional storage arrays very inconsistent. Think of it this way: the last storage array that you deployed was probably very fast on day one, and as you stored more data on it, it became slower. That's a direct result of the ratio of flash to disk not being able to support the working set of your data. The more servers we drive, the more data we store, the more that we need a cache or an acceleration buffer with disk. If I move from a disk solution to all flash, all my data is in memory. Every data access is retrieved at sub-millisecond latency. That not only makes every application faster, it increases the response time. It makes every application more responsive, which drives your users to be more engaged and to appreciate their applications more. But from a storage operational perspective, I don't tune, I don't tweak, I don't try to manage the cache. I'm not monitoring to figure out when is performance going to get poor. If a random burst of I/O fires off, whether it's some end of the month report, some ad hoc query, some virtual machine that just decides they're new to the cloud and they're going to crunch out some new application. The storage array is so rich in IOPS, it's just able to withstand that burst, that unexpected burst or change in workload, and there's nothing you need to do. This is the beauty of an all-flash architecture. There's no more babysitting storage. Now, your implementations are going to vary from vendor to vendor, but with Pure Storage, we've designed the array around steady state of front-end performance. So through a failure, upgrades, maintenance, performance is always steady. There's no variation. And this is the architecture design that we've gone down so that customers can really start to look at storage as something that they don't have to think about outside of saying, I need some capacity and I need to go to this host or this cluster.
So does that mean that you don't have things like, you don't have to think about RAID groups and some of that physical architecture of your storage?
That's true. So our data protection mechanism is called RAID 3D. It's probably better understood if you think of it from an erasure encoding standpoint. It doesn't have an assignment of disk drives or paired protection schemes that you're used to in more of a traditional sense. It does provide for dual faults per write group, which is basically allowing for 4 simultaneous faults per storage shelf of drives, which is pretty impressive. that technology is the foundation that you don't have to configure or tweak. With a disk array, to give you contrast here, right, the customers have to pick and have trade-offs. There's always trade-offs in any architecture. Right. So they pick the amount of overhead or wasted capacity relative to data protection, the amount of data protection relative to performance. When you're on all flash, I can just put in a dual fault data protection mechanism like RAID 3D and still reach, performance levels that just are unheard of from a disk perspective. So there's no RAID setup, there's no cache tunables, no adjustment to read-write cache. All of our feature set from a data reduction, compression, deduplication, pattern and zero removal, thin provisioning, these aren't optionable. They're always on, and so the performance that you get is always consistent. You're not enabling features that have trade-offs downstream, even including all the data that's stored on the flash is encrypted. This, in a traditional storage model, a lot of these features are available, maybe not all in line, maybe some post-process, but every time you enable a feature in a traditional storage model, you are dropping the performance capability of the array to be able to enable that feature set. And so, again, to look at these modern architectures like Pure Storage is a means to receive a storage system that can deliver a level of consistency and thus simplicity that, frankly, you just can't find in any of the arrays that reside in your data center today that are disk-based.
So is that functionality all transparent to the operating system, or do you feed data back to VMware hosts so it knows that you not to turn on dedupe or thin provisioning or things like that because it's already being handled at the storage layer?
So all of our data services are on and are non-configurable or tunable, with the exception if you want to create a data protection policy, which is the combination of a local snapshot, replication to a remote array, and a remote retention policy, which could look and match the source or could be variated from the source for a longer retention cycle, if you will. Outside of that, our feedback back to the hosts and the rest of the whether hypervisor or physical, we're just responding back with standard SCSI commands. And so those hosts or arrays are unaware of the services that we're providing. Okay. Now, as we move into new technologies, like when we ship our GA support for VMware vVols, our VASA provider will provide us an opportunity to give feedback of the data services that are occurring on the flash array. That feedback would go back to VMware admins. But whether we decide to advertise it or not, because they're non-configurable, we'd be giving back pieces of information that the customer cannot take action on. So, we're not sure which way we want to go down that path, right? If I give you info but you can't act on it, is there any value to the information?
Well, the value I would think would be because you are introducing our performance hit when you turn on those functionalities at, say, the hypervisor layer. If it's already being done, you don't want to make it redundant, right? So you don't want to take that performance hit at the hypervisor layer if you don't need to worry about it. And so if I'm a VMware admin and I have, this storage array that's Pure Storage and this other storage array that's something else that I do need to turn on dedupe and this other technology for, I could see where it could be, it might be useful for the storage layer to feed back the information to the hypervisor or, to however you want to do it, to say, hey, okay, you don't want to use these features on this storage because you're just going to be adding latency that you don't need.
Yeah, like application level encryption or compression or something like that, where the array can offload it and don't eat up the CPU cycles on the host, something like that.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so let's just clarify. I'm not aware of any data reduction technologies that are available through the hypervisors, and let's just focus on kind of the key ones, VMware vSphere and Microsoft's Hyper-V. Or data encryption features that are native to the hypervisors. Maybe something's slipping my memory here, but I do agree with you that sharing information through the infrastructure is important. But I agree with you that it's more important when it's an option, so someone knows what options they're enabling, and it can be advised of trade-offs. But in terms of stacking feature sets, probably the element that you're thinking of is whether someone turns on thin provisioning from a VMware level or
right.
hypervisor
Yeah, exactly,
level.
exactly.
And in that case, the end result is whether you do VMware thin provisioning or thick provisioning, the storage consumption on our array is the same.
Oh, okay.
We do have some guidance around settings that will allow you to provision, clone, and migrate data faster, which, believe it or not, the thick formats tend to outpace the thin formats, which is a conversation for another point in time. But customers aren't going to go wrong. You go from disk to flash, and you're gonna take orders of magnitude in terms of a performance gain. You're kind of splitting hairs after that with what you can do on flash.
So let's take a couple minutes and talk about some of your differentiators, and then we'll jump to Cody and start talking about what he's been doing.
Well, he's
Vaughn, you had made a point at the top talking about what was it? I guess the cost per unit of storage, and the difference between flash and spinning disk. How do you guys approach that and achieve wins there?
Sure. So I believe I said probably the biggest misnomer in the all-flash market is someone who thinks I don't need that performance level. First and foremost, every storage device on the planet is highly performant until it reaches its IOP limit, and then it's a catastrophic pain for every application that sits on it. So having excess IOPS in a storage system and thinking that you'll never reach the limit of it is kind of a fallacy. So in the storage space, everyone would love to have a complete solid-state architecture, but there's an understanding that solid state runs about 5 to 6x the price per gigabyte than performance disk. So performance disk meaning a 15,000 RPM hard drive. So what we've done, and there's been a number of vendors in the industry that have followed us, is we leveraged a number of software technologies, data reduction technologies to be specific, that allow us to reduce that price curve and not just get to price parity, but actually to be lower than the price of disk. Where Pure is different than the rest of the market is that our set of data reduction technologies, or what we call flash reduce, is the most comprehensive set of inline and post-process data reduction technologies that span a data deduplication, compression, thin provisioning, and ancillary elements in there. So, we've got 3 forms of compression. We have the finest grain deduplication in the industry. It's variable block size down to 512 byte. To give you a comparison of that, our competition sits in the range of like 8 kilobytes and 16 kilobytes. The more granular that your data reduction technologies are, the more matches you can find within the data set, and thus you can eliminate. So I think the granularity and the depth or the comprehensiveness of the portfolio allows us to drive 2x the results in the data reduction space. Now, is that be all end all? It's not, but it does allow us to store twice the amount of data in the same footprint as a competitor. That becomes a financial enablement that customers can look at and to say, you know what, I can adopt flash, but not only just for some performance-centric application or database or VDI, I can now just start to replace all of my tier 1 storage with all flash. It's going to be simpler to operate. It's going to be much smaller. It's going to require 1/10 of the power, 1/10 of the cooling, right? The cumulative impact of moving to flash is customers free up rack space, power, and cooling, and they're going to be able to store more data in their data centers. And so I'm going to sound bullish here, and I know everyone's going to say this is a big product pitch, but I'm fairly confident you're going to see all of the industry analysts, the Gartners, the IDCs, et cetera, revise their forecasts for adoption of the all-flash storage arrays because Tier 1 disk, folks, it's on its way out. You buy Tier 1 disk tomorrow, and you're going to live with it for another 3 or 4 years. No one wants to be there. And as quick as flash is entering into the Tier 1 space, I'm bullish that you'll see flash enter into the Tier 2 or the capacity-focused storage market probably as early as next year.
Wow.
And that's where you're talking about 7,200 RPM, SATA drives or nearline SAS drives that are high capacity. And again, if you're thinking you need performance in that space, sure you do when you want to analyze your data or back it up, things of that nature. But the real win here is is 85% of net new data is unstructured. It sits in NAS and object-based file stores. Customers who are looking forward to how they're going to manage data growth in the future are looking at metrics like gigabytes per rack unit and watts per gigabyte. That's the new metric of scaling, not whether you're running at 200 microseconds or 300 microseconds. At those numbers, you're hard pressed to find applications that can drive you to the delta in that performance gap. But it is about how much data can I put in my data center and access on demand.
So I never thought about the per unit metric before. Can you give me an idea of what are some typical numbers? Different storage vendors for spinning media, gigabyte per rack unit.
So it's funny. So we were just working with the customer today, and I can't give you examples. This is actually something we're going to work on a blog post. We were with a customer today who said, I've got spinning disk, and it's all sitting on 30 amp circuits. If I move to flash, what density can I gain from a 30 amp circuit? And we basically said it's a little over 5x the density in terms of storage that you can address in the same power circuit.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Okay, so
it's probably less heat too.
Yeah. We've replaced. So really quick on customers. So we replaced 8 floor tiles of big iron spinning disk. I won't mention the vendor or the platform here, but it had 6 engines driving 1,200 drives in about a 90-10 disk to flash tiering configuration. We replaced that 8 floor tiles with 8 rack units. That 8 floor tile array was generating 156,000 BTU of heat per hour. We replaced it with something that generated 5,000. So,
oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wow.
We had a similar replacement in another data center that was 30,000 square feet, and after they migrated the data from spinning disk, the big iron spinning disk, to the all flash array. The facilities team contacted the IT department and say, we think you have a system failure. And IT said, no. And facilities was insistent, you've got a system failure, you've got some colossal outage. And IT department asked, well, what draws you to that conclusion? They say, total data center power consumption dropped by 2 points. So again,
wow,
if you're thinking big picture, you want to think like your CIO, you want to scale your data center forward a couple of decades, start replacing spinning disk. It's the last mechanical element in your data center.
I'm amazed how much the heat difference is. I had no idea spinning disks generated that much heat. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because it's moving parts, but wow. That's astonishing.
That is dramatic.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm taking this podcast way up and away, and everybody who writes scripts and PowerShell is going, why are we listening to gobbledygook?
Hey, it's okay, man. It's our podcast. This is what we want to hear, but people listen because they know that. They know that about us. So they, people who listen, they kind of like where we go. So it all works out. So let's let Vaughn rest his voice box for a few minutes. And Cody, hello again. It's been a while.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah. So you want to talk about management integration? Kind of tell me what it is that how one works with the operations side of Pure Storage hardware here.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, and a lot of this dovetails kind of nicely with moving into just talking about scripting or just general integration. What we've been speaking about before is, in my previous job, the array I worked with was very complex. It was hard to provision. There was a lot of steps, a lot of choices you had to make, whether it be RAID or what disk, all this kind of stuff. And so it was very hard for us to make solid integration on the VMware side of things to allow the VMware administrator to do the provisioning, manage the storage, manage the host, and things like that. Because there are just so many steps they had to go through and understand really fully to make sure that they're getting the performance they needed and whatever, the right protection services. That it was very difficult for us to make integration pieces on the VMware side that make that simple, right? It was always ended up being more complex to set up and configure those integration pieces on the VMware side than it was just to go and do it on the array. And so we didn't see a lot of adoption on the VMware side because of that. And that came along with scripting as well, right? It was just so complicated to do that in my six and a half years or so in that position, I rarely ran into customers that were doing a lot of PowerShell, at least in the VMware environments where I focused. So with the flash array and the simplicity that we've kind of brought into it has really changed that. I've been shocked with the amount of customers that want to do scripting, want to use our web client plugin to manage it, because there's really not much you need to do. Like Vaughn said earlier, you just need, how much capacity do I need, right? And then you're ready to go. That's all you need to do to provision. See, Vaughn's got his finger going here.
Sorry, I'm going to play color commentator on this. So Cody is right. So one of the things that you can think about with an all-flash array is that it's really appropriate for leveraging software-defined constructs and scripting constructs so that you are determining your service levels and feature sets based off of the scripts and the tools that you're defining in software, because the storage platform is the constant, right? You're no longer limited by the underlying capabilities of the array. Now your limitation is, what are you dictating the service level to be in software, and your ability with the software then is to be much more agile.
Yeah, exactly, and so this has really enabled that. Cause before, with people kind of sometimes get scared of scripting, and I think just they see some of the scripts that I've put out, just simple Power CLI stuff, just to provision storage to a host or set up some kind of best practice, things like that, and they see it. It's very simple, very straightforward, and I think they're more apt to start adopting that and start playing around with it more. So just that simplicity and just kind of the single-tier nature of the array, I think really has pushed that forward and allowed us to do a lot more things quickly and get a lot more adoption with our customers. Our goal is to essentially, for VMware admins, with our web client plugin, our goal is for them to never actually have to use our GUI, our CLI. They should be able to do it all in context from that interface.
Okay, I gotcha. So, what can you tell me about the ways that one would automate specifically from the command line, working with Pure Storage? I mean, we know that you have a PowerShell plugin. We'll get right into that. Are there some other methods there?
So, I mean, we have a fully functional REST API. So anything you can do on the array, literally anything that a user can do on the array, we have a REST API for. Whether that be managing replication, provisioning, and all that kind of stuff, can all be done from a REST API. Which is essentially what all of our integration is based on, whatever it is, whether that be the toolkit or some kind of plugin, things like that, all leveraging our REST. We also have a Python automation toolkit as well, if you prefer to use Python. So that's posted up on the Python websites as well. So if people prefer that, they have that option as well. But mostly I've been using our PowerShell toolkit.
So that's what I wanted to get at, was to understand if you guys started with a fully comprehensive REST API, so there are no gaps. So if the PowerShell component, the Python component, what have you, are built, leveraging the REST API, there's nothing they can't do, right?
Exactly. I literally had a customer today, an account team forwarded a question from a customer saying, hey, we want to be able to do X, and we don't quite see it yet in the toolkit. I'm like, well, you can just use the invoke REST method from within PowerShell, and here's the REST call, is what you need to do. So yeah,
sweet.
Yeah, and just real quick, you mentioned the comprehensiveness of our REST API. Our vSphere web client plugin, our VSS provider, our OpenStack Cinder volume driver, the Python toolkit, our SRM SRA adapter or storage replication adapter. Those are just off the top of my head. Those are some additional examples of how our REST API is used across all of our integration points. Gotcha.
That is good. That's the right architecture. I'm glad that the companies have kind of gotten to that point, and not all of them are there, right? I mean, we all know of companies. Let's just say companies in the storage industry where it is very difficult to perform automation because you don't have full access. There's not a comprehensive API to fall back on. There might be some compiled command line utility which has its narrow set of functionality, and that's it.
Yeah,
so
and you guys are doing it kind of our partner ecosystem has been pretty excited about it as well. I mean, just about a month ago, VM Turbo just released with their latest version of their product, their storage controller, the ability to provision and analyze the Pure Storage flash array environment inside of a hypervisor system. So it allows you to say, hey, you need to move these VMs from this data store on the pure flash array, right? Because they're not getting the performance that you should be getting and things like that. And they just leveraged directly our REST API to be able to do it.
Gotcha.
And don't forget the work you did. Don't forget the work you did for VMware Log Insight.
Oh, that's true. Of course, as well, we also have a plugin for vRealize Log Insight, which is being updated as we speak. So that should be out soon, a new version. But yeah, so it's very extensible and easy to manage.
Sweet. So tell me what you can do with the PowerShell module, and what people have been doing with it to, what kind of lay it out for us.
So the first thing that I kind of work a lot in the Power CLI snap-in that VMware offers for PowerShell. And so the first questions I got when I joined Pure last year was, hey, you have a couple of these best practices, and we want help automating the setup of these on the VMware environment, because as we get more and more customers, we're getting larger and larger environments, and so to configure all these ESX hosts in these larger clusters, it's sometimes doing it manually is going to be difficult, and so they want to be able to script it. So one of the first things we did was I wrote a script just to automatically go into a cluster of ESXi hosts and say, all right, we need to set the multipathing to be proper. So it's use the active round robin. It was the very first thing I did. That's used a lot. And I'd say number two, and maybe beating that now, maybe number one, is automating the process of reclaiming space, so running unmap. When you delete a virtual machine, when you move a virtual machine, the underlying array today doesn't understand that, right? It doesn't own the file system, so it doesn't know when a VM has been deleted. So you have to run this manual process in VMware to go down to the data store and say, hey, release this space on the array. And so a lot of customers want to automate that unmap process, and the best way to do it today is with Power CLI. And the nice thing about the flash array, and the reason that it's not an automatic procedure right now in VMware, is that traditionally this unmap procedure was it was a very intense workload on the storage, and it caused some performance problems for VMs that were running on that same data store or even that same array. And so either the I/O caused by that unmap or just the work that was caused on the array from that unmap would hurt the performance. On the flash array, that's not a problem. We're just doing some metadata changes. It's really very little work, so they can run it whenever they want. And so we have a lot of customers that run unmap once a week, once a month, maybe every 3 months, something like that, just depending on how dynamic their environment is. So those are the two things that have probably come up the most. Recently, I've been doing some work with automating the setup of iSCSI in VMware environments and automatically creating the hosts on the flash array and then setting up iSCSI, because that's something that it's starting to really build in popularity. I've been seeing a lot more iSCSI recently, and there's not a lot of knowledge about how to set that up, and people want to see if they can automate it. And so that's something I've been working on the past, I'd say, 2 months or so.
Yeah, so I think it's any command that you can execute on the command line, we have subsequent support for it within the REST API. So whether that's establishing an authentication token, managing users and groups and authentication realms, whether that's creating a storage object or manipulating it with managing it or changing its attributes, building a data protection policy and then taking actions on that policy. It's pretty robust. As Cody was explaining, is he's able to then take those capabilities and then tie them in coordinated effort with settings within the vSphere space, right, where without scripting, you'd be coordinating manual actions between a storage team and a vSphere admin. And instead, we can build these tool sets to make sure that we are executing the specifics that we need for optimal availability or utilization in the two examples that Cody cited.
Gotcha. Awesome. So how do people get started with using the PowerShell toolkit?
So our colleague Rob Barker actually just put out a blog post about this maybe last week, and it's basically the Pure Storage PowerShell starter guide, right? It tells you, all right, here's where you get it. This is how you import it into PowerShell, simple, import module command, and this is how you connect to the flash array. So there's 2 steps. You got to create a token and then connect. We show you how to do that, and then from then on, just goes through all the commands, and this is what you need to do to provision, to create, and things like that. And so I think that starter guide is probably the best place to go, his blog post, and it's on purestorage.com as well as his personal blog.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
So if you go to our communities is not open to the public yet. It's only open to our customers, but that's community.purestorage.com. That should open to the public later this year. If you go to www.themicrosoftdude.com, that's Barker's blog, and from there it'll direct you to places like GitHub/Pure Storage/PowerShell-Toolkit.
And actually the thing that I'm finding first, just in quick Googling, are links to your PowerShell category on your corporate blog. So I actually did find the quick start guide for Pure Storage PowerShell Toolkit by Rob.
Right.
Yeah, that was just posted like a week ago or so. So I've got lots of links that I will add to the show notes. And most of them look like they're kind of homed on the Pure Storage/blog.
Correct. Yeah, they syndicate all of our personal blogs onto the websites, Vaughn's, mine, and as well as Rob's and a few others. So.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, perfect. Makes sense. So cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. It looks like this is quite a good primer and kind of gets you going with everything. I'm just kind of paging through it right now. There's a lot of stuff in here. Cool.
Yeah, and if you go through Rob's blog, he's got lots of PowerShell examples. Actually, I believe he might even have a hashtag for some of his posts. But he goes through monitoring storage capacity, automating the configuration of volumes to Windows hosts, automating taking snapshots of SQL databases, restoring from snapshots, connecting snapshots. So he's put together a number of commandlets and then walks his readers through how to execute those.
Very good, very good. Yeah, this thing's just about a book, actually. This thing is long. It's got videos in here and screenshots. That's awesome.
It should have everything you need to know to get started. And if you have just even an introductory knowledge of PowerShell, you should be able to get going with our toolkit pretty quickly. He's done a great job of putting it together and making sure it's easy to use and also kind of follows the guidelines for general commandlets and things like that. And on that note, right, it is something that he manages and he's created. It's open source. It's posted. We are working, though, on kind of making this a full-time engineering project as well. So we're going to shortly replace that with one that's been done by engineering. And it will be the same commands, everything like that. So if you wrote a script, you can pull the one right out we have right now, and then throw the new one in, and it'll be perfectly fine. And by giving it to engineering, we'll be able to add more commands, make it larger, make it more fully functional, things like that, much quicker. And so that will be coming down pretty shortly, I'd say.
Yeah, as long as the engineers can live with taking direction from Rob.
This is true.
Yeah, that does sound like a positive change, though. That's kind of maturity, right?
Yep, exactly. And so that should be coming down. I said that in a month or two, I think, as we're releasing that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Awesome. So let me see. Where should we go to learn more? I've already got Pure Storage /blog. I've got Rob's blog. Where else do we need to redirect people to learn more about what either you gentlemen are doing?
Well, you need to follow. You need to have your scripting followers follow Rob on Twitter. His handle is the MSFT dude. So Twitter, or at I should say, the MSFT dude, because Rob engages with a lot of PowerShell scripters in conversations on Twitter. So, what you receive and can read from him in his blogs are these long examples and explanations of the technology. But, to sometimes see him in real life and really helping folks with solving real world problems, you just follow his tweet stream.
And of course, If you want from the more Power CLI side of things, you can go to my blog, just codyhosterman.com. And I have a couple scripts posted on GitHub right now. Most of the things that I've already mentioned, right? So some iSCSI stuff, Unmap, best practice, that kind of stuff. So it's straightforward.
We are quite partial to Power CLI on this podcast.
Indeed, we are.
Yeah, in fact, the last episode was Alan announcing the latest version of Power CLI on the show. So that was cool.
Yeah, and if you want to go old school into some like Windows command shell scripting, I'm the master of like for loops. So you guys just let me know.
Yeah,
and,
we'll do that.
Power CLI is that Alan probably spoke about this a little bit, but did he talk about the Power Actions plugin that Fling VMware offers? Have you heard of that?
I don't remember.
He was talking about a couple of different flings. I don't remember if that was one of them or not. It may have been.
Yeah, this is a cool one. Basically allows you to integrate any script you want into the vSphere web client GUI.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it's something that I'm really enjoying, because basically if anyone's plugin doesn't support something right now, their GUI plugin or whatever, you can write a PowerShell script, PowerCLI script to do that, right? So if they have commandlets, if VMware has a commandlet, you can do it yourself until they support whatever behavior that you like in the plugin. I mean, in the web client. It's cool.
That is really cool. Well, guys, I've just got one question for the both of you. This is a question that we ask everybody who comes on the podcast. So, I was gonna say, so don't feel special. Vaughn, I'll let you go first. Vaughn, if you could be a superhero or have a superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, I'd be Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four.
Why did I know that?
I don't think I need to explain anymore. I'm done.
He also has nice hair, actually, now that I think about it.
That's a good point. As for me, I've had many discussions with my friends about this, and I had opinions before, but I actually saw this video on cracked.com maybe a year ago where they discussed this. And because I always I thought Wolverine would be the coolest thing, right? But they said the problem with Wolverine is that he can't really ever die, so eventually he's going to get trapped in a mine, right?
Oh, gosh.
So I'm like, I don't really want to be immortal, right? So basically, I was like, what would be the best? In their conclusion, the best option would be Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell, because he can just stop time and then do whatever he wants and make anything happen that he wants to happen. So I think I'm going to have to go with Crack's opinion. I think that's a great answer.
That's funny. Was this one from one of their their after hours video?
Yes,
series?
It was after hours. Indeed.
I've not seen all of those, but I know I figured that it must have been that one, because that kind of sounded like a conversation they would have.
Exactly.
Wait a minute. So in fair play, what about you guys? Which superheroes would you be?
Oh, let's see. What was my
latest
from
one
the
is
very beginning? Go ahead, Jonathan.
My latest one is Thor.
The new Thor, because she's a female now.
From the movies.
Good point.
No, not from the comic books. From the movies.
I thought a gender bender there.
I'm not that
I
creative.
Nightcrawler from the X-Men.
Oh, yeah. Good call.
Yeah, teleportation, blue skin, just the whole thing. I would do that.
My original one was a character that was on Heroes briefly, and she had the ability to acquire skills just by seeing them. So she could watch Michael Jordan play basketball and then play basketball like Michael Jordan. And that would be a very cool power to have. And, less likely to end up in a lab somewhere.
That's true.
After 298 episodes, we have heard it all, just about. We have definitely heard a wide range.
Yeah, everything from Reagan to R2-D2.
Are you guys trending this out so you know which superheroes were most selected and which ones released? Because I really don't know what Mr. Fantastic is in that.
You are the first.
Might be the first. Yeah.
And
we've had Batman and Superman a lot, though.
We've never had Zach Morris either. I can guarantee you that.
No, we do not.
Hey, you can stop time.
Well, we have had Hero from
Heroes.
Not Hero.
Hiro Nakamura from Heroes, yeah.
Exactly. We have had him. So
I only watched
stopping
the first
time.
season of that show.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up this call, we're still early in the first half of 2015. What do you guys see on the horizon as potential big releases for the scripting community as we go through the rest of this calendar year? I mean, what are you waiting for the release of or looking forward to that's going to help move the scripting movement forward?
PowerShell version 5, the Windows Management Framework 5, will probably ship this year. They haven't said that, but they already have preview releases out, and we're supposed to get Windows 10 client this summer. So I'm guessing that we'll see PowerShell version 5 this year with all of the new features around PowerShell desired state configuration and OneGet and PowerShell Get. I'm mostly interested in the new stuff that's coming with PowerShell desired state configuration, personally.
Nice.
And my stuff actually is more along the lines of PowerShell get in one Git. So that is for people who don't know, that is a concept that Linux and Unix operating systems have had forever. Linux more specifically. So things like apt-get and yum and RPM, the ability to install software from repositories, that's coming to Windows. With PowerShell 5 and Windows 10. So I'm super excited about that.
Very cool.
So I appreciate you guys coming on. This has been great. Thanks a lot, Vaughn, Cody.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, and we will we'll let you know when the podcast ships. It'll probably be a week or two before Jonathan does the editing and so forth, and it'll get posted for the those who listen to the audio portion, which is what the predominant vector is for consumption of the podcast.
Great, thanks. Sounds good.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
All right.
Have a good night. Thanks. Bye.
All right, bye.